Yes, which is Councillor Joan Henry, Emma Wiley from Muslim of Merton, Councillor Eloise Bailey and Councillor Karis Saragian, Mr Islam from the Bangladeshi Association of Merton, and Councillor Marcy Skeet, and also Mr Salim Sheikh.
Thank you. Those will be noted. Right. Agenda item number 3, minutes of the last meeting. I'm going to do the minutes and any matters arising together. So we start on page 1.
We should have had Mr Islam as an apology for the last meeting. He asked me to mention.
Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. And the final paragraph on page, and 2 paragraphs on page 7. So can I take that the minutes are accepted? Okay? Thank you. Agenda item number 4. So the community plan, and I'll ask Darren to introduce the plan.
Thank you, Chair, Councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here today. So, my name is Darren Tulley, and I'm the Borough Commander for the London Fire Brigade for the Borough of Merton. And you may well be asking, why is the Fire Brigade Borough Commander doing the community plan? Well, I was caught at an off moment about 6 months ago by the Chief Executive, Darren, who asked me to do it. It was some of the things that the Council has done in the past. And he was considering whether or not to do it again. And he considered that it was a worthwhile event, and I will take you through what the community plan is and why we think it is a useful practice. The reason I said yes to doing the community plan, which is probably slightly outside of my normal remit, is that it gives me the opportunity to engage with the public, to speak to a variety of groups, residents and members of the public. And my job, particularly as a Borough Commander, is reaching out to the vulnerable people, to those people who need my help the most. So it was an opportunity for me to get out there and speak to people and make sure that my message is put within the community plan. So, let me take you through it. So, it replaces the previous community plan, which was between 2013 and 2019. It was originally a requirement for the council to do. That requirement has been lifted, so it's something that's now voluntary. A number of councils are continuing to do that because they see the work in that plan. And it is developed by the Merton Partnership. So the purpose of the plan is to set out Merton Partnership's long-term ambitions for the borough. To increase social capital across the borough, and I'll define that for you in a second. To embed the big family approach across the Merton Partnership. And finally, to make the plan easily accessible to councillors, residents, and anybody that does want to see it. So, the fundamental purpose of the plan, and in the direction in which we're going, is to increase social capital. Now, for those that aren't aware of how we define social capital is a very fluid thing. It's something that's quite hard to pin. But what it really is, someone defined it quite nicely the other day, it's the glue that holds society together. And it takes up many different strands. So it can be anything from knowing your next door neighbour, to being part of a club, to being part of a neighbourhood watch, or to how many people vote in an area. And we have managed to break that down into 5 different subsections, which I will show you in a second, and measure the borough. And the whole idea between social capital and the plan is that to increase social capital in the areas that need it most, and to highlight the good examples of social capital, are the real drivers to this plan. It's been proven increasingly across the country now that the good social capital in an area has a multitude of benefits, from health to sociability to lower crime to increased community spirit, etc., etc. So we're trying to highlight those areas that are really good, and to try and improve those areas that will perhaps need a bit more support or encouragement. So that's what the social capital is. In terms of making it accessible, the previous plan was a paper-based format. I'm really keen that this plan doesn't become a document that just gets written and stuck on a shelf for nobody to see for the next 5 years. It's going to be a live document, it's going to be something that's going to be working, it's going to be something that's going to be picking up on a number of thematic leads in the borough and a number of other plans. We're going to be picking up some of the strategic objectives from those and following those plans. So it's actually embedded within a number of plans within the borough and a number of different thematic networks. So, we are undertaking, we have actually undertaken some extensive engagement with residents across the borough, using some proxy indicators, and I'll explain some of those in a minute. We built up a picture of what social capital, what we think social capital looks like in the borough, and how that's broken down between the different wards. So we'll have an online presence. We'll have a little element of a bit about you said and we did. So what the public and what the residents and what you were asking for, we will explain what we have done over the last 5 years and why we haven't done some of those things that perhaps would have been wanted. And then hoping, so if we can identify some serious opportunities, some things that we can build some solid infrastructure, then perhaps the community interest, that thing, the SIL money, the community infrastructure levy can help us and can help some of the communities build some infrastructure in some of those wards. So some of the engagement work we've done, so the Children and Young People Survey came to around 1,300 responses, and those are responses directly from the children and young people. They told us how they felt across the borough. There were some specific questions that we rolled into the annual resident survey. We got about 1,000 responses from that. We're about to commission a piece of work for somebody to go out and target some of the seldom listened to groups. Some of those groups that don't talk to us regularly or don't have their voices heard. So those seldom listened to groups, whoever they may be, those with social isolation or some of those ethnic groups that don't engage with the council, or some of those communities that have got a transient population. Some of those people that we don't normally get to hear and we normally answer those surveys. And we're doing a number of workshops with voluntary sectors, the community groups and the thematic networks. So, there's an analysis of some of the wards. We picked those ones just for this particular one. So we've done all the wards and we've done this little spider chart to show you how different wards engage in different ways. Now if we take it down, so social infrastructure, the very top one there, is the structure within the ward itself, the structure that gives the ability for people to go out and about. So a classic example would be parks and playgrounds. Okay. Civic participation is about voting and about residents voting in local elections. Community volunteering, it pretty much says it as it is. Informal sociability is about knowing your neighbours and about getting on who you can trust and who you can ask. How many people do you know in your road? And then finally, social trust is about how much you trust society, who you can go to for help, and about being part of a neighbourhood watch team. So there was about, I've got the list, I'm not going to read it out, but there were probably about 20 different questions we asked. And from that, we had a rough measure of how the borough looked. And just you might say before you've actually looked at social capital, the Woodland Village is a really nice place to live. Well, it probably is a really nice place to live. You've got lots of money, but what social capital questions told us was that there's very little social capital there. So the children and young people's survey told us that the youth in the Woodland Village area think they've got nowhere to go. It might be there's lots of open spaces in the Woodland Village, but actually there's no playgrounds or BMX tracks or parks or swings for them to go in. It's great if you want to go fly a kite or ride a horse, but for the children themselves, there's very little infrastructure, or they perceive there to be very little infrastructure. So Woodland Village actually scores really poorly on that. Big houses, gates, not many people know their next door neighbour, they lock themselves away and they deal with their lives in a very isolated manner. Whereas if you look at Merton Park, it's high in quite a lot of things. There's a high turnout for voter participation in Merton Park because we know they're an independent ward, because there's a greater degree of council participation in Merton Park. But it seems to be quite a good place to live in terms of social capital. And then you can look at some of the other ones. So Lower Morden, for example, has got a high central participation. It's slightly lower on the social infrastructure. And so we've broken down those different wards, and I'm not going to read them all out, but they are all different. And you will know how certain wards, be it Cricket Green, or be it Raiders Green, or be it Great Mead, etc., are good at some things and perhaps slightly less good at others. And we've got that data here. But what I'm after from you tonight is about telling me where those good examples are. What works really well in your wards, in the area that you live in, and what doesn't work really well that we perhaps would need to look at to help try and improve some of that social capital. So, what are we asking then? Highlighting examples of projects which promote or build social capital. Outline how the board engages with the subsidiary groups and organisations that feed into it, and any engagement channels that could be used to support the development of the sustainable community plan. Consider whether there are any places or communities they wish to prioritise for the engagement work. So some of those things that actually need a bit of help, or actually some of the things that are really good, if we can highlight those, then maybe that will spread, using those as the examples. Particularly with engagement with the hard to reach groups, and suggest any channels or mechanisms for how we may engage with some of those hard to reach groups. And then note the progress so far on the development of the new sustainable community plan for the borough, and the links that can be built with the community cohesion strategy, as well as any other relevant plans. So, I'll open it up to you now. Do you have any questions for me on sustainable community plan?
Thanks for the report. So a couple of things. Can councillors get all the details of the particular ward differences that you talked about, so we can get copies of that and all the data?
Is that possible?
It's possible, but we're still doing some analysis of the different questions and how we sort them and rank them. So we've still got a bit more work to do on that.
Right.
But in due course we can release it.
Brilliant. Yeah, that was very useful.
Yeah.
Because there's still more data to come in.
Yeah, I mean, I
so
found this fascinating.
I think just to come back to what you just said, when we did the last one, I think his name who passed away.
Yeah.
And it was circulated to every ward council so that you're aware and see what improvements can be made. So obviously once it's fully completed, that will be the case. Okay.
I didn't realise I need this. Okay, and one of the points you were talking about, the hard to engage groups. Does that include religious groups at all? Is that one of the areas that you looked at?
So one of the remits in terms of, so we're engaging with another organisation who will do that piece of work for us, who are more suited to doing that and more expert at doing that. So yes, there's a whole raft of those, but absolutely. So be it ethnic groups, be it mental illness, be it religious faith, you name it, let us know. Then in particular, things that you might think have been left out, one of those groups that might be more on the fringes that we haven't thought about or haven't considered, then anybody and anything, tell us and we will try and engage.
And just my last question. So the thing that obviously the striking difference that you noticed as well about the difference between village and ward
is there a possibility that there could be less need in terms of social interaction, trust, volunteering, that kind of area? Or are you personally worried by that?
So this is an interesting fact. So if you looked at that alone, you'd say actually Wimbledon Village needs all the work here. Let's focus on Wimbledon Village, but actually that's probably not what we want to do. We don't really want to be focusing on the west of the borough, whereas in fact it's the east of the borough. So as I briefly alluded to earlier on, there's 4 thematic networks we're looking at. Okay, so health and wellbeing board, the children and young people's board, and we're looking at what their top strategic priorities are. So we're taking 2 priorities from each of their themes, and then we're going to overlay those to see actually, for example, it might be for the community safety partnership for Safe for Merton, it might be reducing knife crime or violence. So if it is, and we've still yet to get, we're teasing those out, we'll have more news on that in next week. But if it is about reducing knife crime, then we need to look at how knife crime perhaps relates to the spider chart and how we can improve it in the areas that might do. So there's a bit of cross relations. It's not just those with the lowest social capital need the most work. It's about how those areas with low social capital may well increase and improve some of the strategic priorities of the thematic network. Does that make sense? So, for example, a ward that's particularly high in burglaries would highlight, perhaps on the spider charts, that there's limited neighbourhood watch engagement. Increasing neighbourhood watch engagement, have some money to invest in some time, some promotion into that would then help decrease the burglaries and their problem.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
I'm really concerned about some of the terminology that's used. We've been using hard-to-reach groups for, I don't know, 20 years. And I'm not sure that that's helpful. I think we need to find a way of changing those labels. They're not hard to reach, they're there. It's just that we're not using the right tools to get to them. That's one thing. And also, things are moving. There maybe you've discovered that there's knife crime in one particular area. But I think you'll realize what's happening is that these things are shifting. It's moving from one area to another. As soon as you put pressure in one area, it moves to another. So I don't know how you're going to address that.
Thank you very much. So apologies first of all. I think it's an old slide and I just picked up the hard to reach. So seldom listened to groups is how we refer to it, because obviously they're very different connotations and implications with that. So funny enough, that's the first time I've used the word hard to reach groups, and I've chosen the wrong time to do it. So apologies, you can beat me up later. But no, absolutely. So apologies. So that is absolutely, I agree with you there, because it does have the wrong connotations. In terms of your second question, it's the problem we always have. It's the problem that all of the partners have in terms of you focus on one area and something else diminishes, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't try to improve it in that. And particularly things like crime is a moving thing, it's a current thing, and that's why the community plan needs to be a live document rather than being something that is a rigid paper document that we're just going to publish every 5 years. So it almost needs like an yearly or 2-year review. But the big thing about that is it takes the strategic priorities from the thematic needs. So we're using the other group's priorities, and if those priorities change, what we do. All we're going to be doing is promoting, assisting, highlighting and advertising those things and trying to promote some of the social capital values and improving that to those areas. So I agree, it's a continual problem, it's a problem about a lifetime, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't try with that. And that's why it should be more of a fluid document than a rigid paper document that won't do anything with it. So one of the things we're going to be doing is having an online presence, so we're going to be highlighting good examples, and we're thinking about using a map. For example, you might have just moved into an area. I don't know the area, I've never lived in Wimbledon before, or I've never lived in Mitcham before. What am I going to do with my children this weekend because they're driving over the wall? So you click on the map and it says, oh, there's some there's some children's groups, there's some playgrounds, there's some parks, and I know there's a bridge club down there, or there's a single group, or there's a church group, and then suddenly it opens up your eyes to what you can get into in the area. And one of the things we really want to do is start to highlight some of those things on a physical map, so you can actually start to look at it. And it's something I would actually quite like in my area. Thank you.
Yes, sir. My concern is that, you know, the divide has been going on and has been maintained all along for more than 15, 20 years since I've been in the borough. This divide still exists between the East and the West. In your opinion, because I live in the East, what changes or what should I be seeing or looking for to believe that this gap is being narrowed?
It's a big question, sir. It's a big question for me. I can't tell you that. All I know is that in everything we do, in all of the thematic leads, in all the boards I sit in, it talks about that divide and tries to focus that on it. So we changed the priorities to some of the wards in the east of the borough. So Mitcham is now more focused, whereas it was in fact Wimbledon Park, for example. I can't tell you that data, but what we will do is that now we've started to measure. So I'm looking at social capital for the community plan. That's my thing. It's about that glue and that social infrastructure and the way in which people engage. If we could get a measure of that as a date stamp now, then in 2 years' time, when we do the next surveys, we can then measure it again and say what's improved and what hasn't improved and why hasn't it. And do you know what? It might go up in all of them, it might go down in all of them, but we've got something we can try and do that. And there are things coming online, so the whole Wilson Hospital, for example, is going to try and improve some of that, but these things do take time, and I think you're right, it's always been there, and it is in every borough.
Yeah, it is true, and I agree to your answer you've just given me. It's just that where the backyard, which used to be the gas board or whatever for a long time, that has been closed, demolished. Nearly 10 years ago, nothing seemed to be happening there. And each time we come to meetings or whatever, the council telling us that development is on its way. Something, they've even shown us plan to see how many houses, how many shops, how many this, you know, the demarcations out there. But this just been going on. So it's just like we come, we talk, we're all aware of the division east-west. So I was thinking that, so what should I start looking for to know that things have been in the option of changing?
But you're right, so in my role here, so from two sides, from the fire service side, I know my role fairly well in the borough, and I know the work we do in the borough. And I can probably, more than happy to come and show you what we do in the borough to try and improve that side of things in the east-west. In terms of the council, in terms of the planning, in terms of the borough plan, then that's something that's outside my remit. One of the things that we do want to do in the community plan is about the things that we promised to do in the last plan and the things that have been done. So there is some actual, as you say, and it'd be really nice to have that. So if we can pick out some of those things that have done in the east of the borough and try and focus our things on, actually, we said in the last plan we were going to do this, and you wanted this done, and this is what's being done. And actually, maybe answer some of those questions as to why it's not being done. Because that's just as important. Sometimes things aren't being done because they just haven't got around to it, or because there's some more legal ramifications or barriers to that. But it'd be interesting to know that perhaps that's some of those things we could focus on.
Thank you.
I think, in addition to that, I think that's a good question you've asked, because the last plan, we mentioned bridging the gap between the east and the west. But I think, as you quite rightly said, we need to focus our idea on what's been done, how we've to maintain bridging the gap between the two areas. I think instead of just saying we're going to bridge the gap, we don't know what's been done, what improvements have been made. I think so. What you said is quite right.
Yeah.
So we can develop from there. Gentleman at the back, sorry.
Councillor, I apologise for coming in slightly later. Stuck in a bit of traffic. So my question, you may have already answered during your presentation. So it's two questions. With the survey and the responses, how many surveys were sent out? to kind of just figure out the response rates. And the second question is, with the analysis of the wards, do we have prior year comparatives to see kind of where we were last year in comparison to this year, to see whether we are making those improvements? Thank you.
So the resident survey was 1,000, wasn't it, John?
Yeah.
So 1,000 surveys were sent out for the resident survey, and about 1,280, 1,300 for the children and young people's plan, children and young people's survey. No, the answer is, so we've stuck questions in there that we think are a measure of social capital. So have you both, how many people do you know in your rows, how many clubs you're a member of, etc., because those are some specific data sets that we want to try and measure social capital. So the previous surveys wouldn't have incorporated those specifically for us to measure, but that's something that we're quite keen to look at as being let's look at it again in 2 years' time. So it's in 2 years, isn't it? So in 2 years' time, when the next resident survey goes out, we'll ask those same questions again.
Yeah. So I think comparatives would be useful.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we can try and focus on those areas that are working.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you do a fantastic.
What was your
Sorry.
silver?
One at the bottom.
Silver.
Yeah, Jerry Hall really, and I've been very impressed with, a lot of work you do in the community, like work in schools, and probably, also complimenting work at the ambulance service, or looking after old people, and these big red vans turn up at houses, some smoke alarms, impressive, How much further could you go? Because you do a heck of a lot of work, really, in the community. How much further could you go, to get a community on board, and also to use your vast resources? I mean, a lot of it, perhaps, something still remain untapped, particularly over, with the ambulance service. And I'm thinking of, what happened in New York, where the ambulance and the fire service kind of work together. Yeah.
Okay, that's a fire brigade question. Thank you. Something I'm slightly more comfortable with. The fire department in America works very differently. So for us, in terms of the ambulance service here is an NHS-funded machine, and the London Fire Brigade is funded by the mayor and local taxpayers. So it's very different. But there have been some amalgamation works and some stuff that we've been trying, and actually, to be honest, that question is for my bosses in terms of the way that works. But for example, Merton was one of 3 boroughs in London that did corresponding trial with the ambulance service. So we were going up to cardiac arrests. That was a 2-year trial which stopped, unfortunately, last year due to a pay dispute. But we were doing 90% of that calls for cardiac arrests, and we were going out and supporting the ambulance service. So there is some really good work we can do there. We're doing, as well as our home fire safety visits, we're also doing some health-related visits. So we're doing falls prevention, social isolation, befriending, smoking cessation, a winter warmth, etc., polypharmacy, atrial fibrillation. So we're doing those checks as well. And that's currently in a 2-year trial as well, which is due to terminate in November this year. So absolutely some more. We've got really good brands of fire service, and we get into a lot of people. We get to see a lot of people because there's a trust there. I think there's a lot more we can do. I absolutely agree. I think we've got the capacity, because one thing that we have done through the work of everybody, through the work of the council, building regulations, my firefighters, the public, etc., we've managed to reduce fires by 50% in the last 10 years. So we're doing 50% less fires now than we were 10 years ago, which means we've got loads more time to do stuff and try and prevent it even further. And that's why I'm standing here today and talking to everybody here, because the more people I get to speak to, the more people tell me we get smoke alarms and visits and stuff we do and coming to talk to groups, is the more we drive those fires down. And how that links into the community plan is about actually how can we engage with the community in terms of that social capital. So on the note of that, so the Old Mitcham fire station, pretty little place, actually was a very usable fire station. It was old, it was outdated, and couldn't get it in. The new Mitcham fire station has got a community room in it, so it's a free-to-use room that anybody not for profit can come and use that room. We've got an awful lot of community groups that come in and use that on a daily basis. So we're pretty much almost fully booked now. So that is a facility that we can use, and that's something that we can offer out as an example that we put in the community plan, for example, about trying to increase that and trying to help local residents. And that's something that's better for the east of the borough than it is for the west of the borough. But there's more we can do, absolutely. In terms of the health stuff, I think there's a lot more we can do. But they are working on that. It's a slow thing, but we are held up with contracts with pay slips, etc. So I'm afraid at the moment, no, but that doesn't stop me trying and doing it informally by the back door. And we are looking at these things to try and improve the service that we do deliver to the public. Get constantly at the forefront. Thank you, sir.
Just curious, what was the outcome of the trial with the ambulance service and cardiac arrests?
What was the outcome? It's a really hard thing to do. So what we did is we went to what the LAS would call a red one call. So it's a cardiac and respiratory arrest. Nobody under the age of 12, so it was adults only. Made up 9% of our calls in this borough. They made up 11% in Lambeth and 14% in Neale, where they were doing the trial as well. Incredibly successful. So, albeit the ambulance service were always going, it was a blind trial, so the ambulance service didn't know we were going to attend, so they would attend as they would have done normally. But what it did do, and really highlighted the fact is that we could provide a really good service to the ambulance service. So, if you imagine that the ambulance service would have got a unit there, it might just be one paramedic on their own. And then they'd have to work on an individual, do the survey, do the compressions, do the oxygen, the defibrillation, and all the clever stuff with the drugs, all on their own. What we managed to do was to come in, clear the room, clear the scene, do the compressions. We got really good at that, really good at doing all the compressions and the CPR, and allowing the paramedics to do their work and their clever stuff. There is no hard data on what it did to help the residents, but I know we had 17 return of spontaneous circulation that we attended, so that's 17 people that we brought back who were clinically dead when we turned up, and we got back when they left and went into the ambulance. The bigger question is really how would that be used in the longer term, and actually looking at the data and how many people we would have saved, maybe we wouldn't have saved had we not been doing that trial. And of course the big thing is about trying to free up ambulance resources, because that's the NHS is under the crunch with that, the LAS is under the crunch with that. And can we free up some of those resources? Yes, probably, but the LAS have still got to attend, and they will always attend. But it does mean that they can free up some of their resources to go do other stuff once they need 1 or 2 units there. So there is no hard data on what we've done. Well, there is some hard data, but I can't tell you specifically what it was. I know we got really good at it. I know the firefighters got really emotionally attached to it because it was hard work for them. They were doing, on average, each watch was doing 3 or 4 a week, and they were seeing a lot of dead people in the place. And it was quite a hard toll on them because that's all they were doing. But they were really good thing to do, and really worthwhile, and an absolutely positive thing for us to do, albeit hard on individuals. So that's all I can tell you. But it's something I do support. But we'll have to see where that goes in the future, and that's on hold, I'm afraid, whilst they make their decision on phase 2 and roles.
No more further questions. Thank you very much, Darren, for the presentation. I think I'm very pleased that this is going to go like, we're not going to have it on paper like we did the last time. It's going to just continue and we're going to get up to it. But I think in terms of the organizations, I think what should happen is if you could notify the organizations of what's going on so that they're aware. And in terms of the question the Councillor Tulley asked, I think it's right if you could take it upon to notify councillors of what's going on, about the plan, and so that we know word by word how the approach has been taken and what's been done.
Okay, we want to do a session for councillors.
If you feel that if you have the time,
I'd be more than happy to do this, absolutely.
I think it would be beneficial if you have a session with councillors, because we will so that they can hear it from you. Because I think if I could remember, and we do the session as well with councillors.
Yeah, something we have talked about actually.
Yeah.
So it's on our list to do.
So we can even fit in with your time. Okay? So thanks very much appreciated. Right.
evening, whatever time of day it is. Okay, my name is Bob Whitehead. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the neighbourhood inspector for Merton. I basically look after all of the officers who work on your wards as the local neighbourhood community officers. Okay? You've seen my report, hopefully. It's been circulated. Rather than just rehash and repeat what's in it, I would rather just generally do Q&A. So whatever you want to ask me, I will try and answer. If you don't have any questions, there's a couple of bits I should do with mentioning that just helps me out. But I'm happy to start off with a couple of open questions. I've got a couple of things I need to mention, but I'm hoping they will come out in questions. So who would like to ask a question? Anything to do with policing in the Borough of Merton?
I think burglary is the issue for me personally in my ward. That is a major issue.
Which ward?
West Barnes.
West Barnes, okay.
And I know that our officers have talked about it as well. Is this something that you're prioritising at the moment in terms of your next strategies and next steps?
Right. Burglary is always a priority for me. It is one of our main priorities. It's a priority for every single ward on the borough. I am aware of just how much of an impact burglary actually has on people. It's not just theft of property, it's the psychological impact has a massive impact on people. It is something I am very concerned about. Looking at the figures, 18% increase over the last rolling year. That does worry me. Part of that, there's a number of reasons for that. Crime across the whole of London is up. There's also an element that a year ago we were doing really well. So what actually happened was that 1 year ago I was telling everybody that our burglary rate was down slightly and the rest of London had spiked by 15%. So I was really pleased with myself. Unfortunately this year we caught up to the rest of London. That's part of the issue. So crime generally is up. All forms of crime, recorded crime in Merton is up 2%, burglary rate is up 18%. There are a number of reasons for it. There's a number of socio-economic reasons for increasing burglary that I cannot go into. It is way above my pay grade. There's also an element of different types of figures. So what some people call burglary is not necessarily what everybody thinks of a burglary is. So what everybody says is a burglary is somebody breaks into my house and steals my stuff. That's burglary. We all agree with that. However, the definition of burglary is enters as a trespasser and steals property from within. So, if somebody comes into this room while it's closed and steals something from it, it's burglary. Okay? That is a burglary. It's non-residential burglary, but it's still a burglary. What that also means is that if somebody goes into a block of flats and there's a big post room, and they go into the post room and steal post from a closed post room, they have entered that post room as a trespasser and stolen from within. That is therefore a residential burglary. Now I've had a bit of an issue in Wimbledon Park Ward where we had a couple of blocks of flats and we have finally caught the person who did it. So pleased that we did that. But they do not hit my figures quite badly. So if they've gone in a couple of times a week for the last 5-6 weeks and stolen mail from a post room, each of them counts as a burglary for my figures. Now obviously there's less psychological impact for having somebody nick your post. Yes, it's really annoying, yes, it's not nice, but it's not the same as what we generally would perceive as a burglary. So there's an element of that that's been part of the increase, where I got absolutely spanked by a couple of blocks of flats that had post rooms, and this nasty person was breaking in or walking in and stealing mail. So that's part of the figures rise. There's a number of other things. When Coppy's been caught, that's the nasty Wimbledon burglar, and everybody goes, whoa, Wimbledon burglar, he's been caught, the Wimbledon prowler, fantastic. He's not the only person who's been doing burglaries in the last 10 years. Yes, he has done a lot of burglaries. We reckon somewhere in the ballpark of 200 burglaries. Okay? But when you actually put the numbers onto that, 200 burglaries over 10 years is one every couple of weeks. There's more than one burglary every couple of weeks. So when you actually look at the numbers, there's a lot of other people who are doing burglaries. He was not the only person doing burglaries. There's also a number of other people who've been doing burglaries, and people have gone, that must be the Wimbledon Prowler. I got burgled in Wimbledon Village or anywhere in Merton, that must have been the Wimbledon Crown. So there's an awful lot of fear that he'd done more than he'd actually done, when other people had been doing burglaries, and then they were attributed occasionally to property. That doesn't help us out. There's also now an element that everybody goes, whoa, he's been caught, I can now leave all my windows open. And he's not the only burglar. So this is one of the things that we want to push, is he's not the only one. There are other burglars out there. We need people to continue to keep doing looking after themselves, looking after their property, making sure windows and doors are locked. So people are saying, oh yes, he's been caught, there won't be any more burglaries ever again in the whole of Merton. Doesn't work like that. So that's one of the problems with burglary. So there's a selection of bits and pieces. I can say I am doing a lot of work on it. We have caught a couple of other burglars, so we have been doing an awful lot of work. The different teams will focus on different areas, shall we say. So the areas that have higher burglary problems, the teams will focus more on the burglary problems. The areas that have different kinds of problems with antisocial behaviour may focus more on the antisocial behaviour. And that, of course, means they work different hours. So, in the nicest possible way, the burglary, the boys and girls who are more concerned about burglary may frequently be working all through the night. The people who are concentrating on the antisocial behaviour or other types of crimes might be working during the daytime at varying different times and days. So each of the ward teams will kind of focus on what they feel is the most useful and the most priority for their crimes. One of the other things I need to point out, I put in the pack, burglaries in everybody's wards over the last 2 years. Have you seen those graphs? Right at the bottom. Confusing, aren't they? Agreed. Absolutely, they are. And the problem is that every one of our burglaries, you look at the wards and go, has there been? Yes, there's been an 18% increase over the last rolling year. But each of the different wards goes like that. So some months are bad months and some months are good months. The problem is that I can't then focus and go, you know what, I reckon I need to put all my resources into that ward or that ward. Because each ward, each month, everything changes. So all I'm doing is playing whack-a-mole. So I don't wish to put officers onto patrolling areas where there won't be burglary. I'm trying to stop the burglaries from happening. So I kind of look at it and go, yes, there's been an 18% increase in burglary, but can I predict and go, you know what, next month there's going to be an increase of burglaries in that ward? I can't do that because, as you can see from the figures, over the last 2 years, all of the burglaries rates go up and down. And as I said, there's also a number of other reasons for what might be classed as burglary and what isn't. Okay?
Can I thank you for your update in the reports. On hate crime figures, Islamophobic hate crimes has increased from 2018 to 2019. What are you doing about it in Merton?
Hang on, which set of crimes?
It's Islamophobic hate crimes has increased from 22 to 26.
Okay. A large element of me says 22 to 26, the numbers aren't statistically significant. Okay? Islamophobic crime is up, but I think religious crime is down. So a large part of me looks at all different types of crime, including all of the different types of hate crime. 22 to 26, is that just an increase in reporting? Is that an increase in confidence in reporting? Is that actually an increase in crime? Or is it just not what I call statistically significant? So if you see a crime has gone from 2 to 3 in a year, it's a 50% increase. Is that something that is actually something I go, you know what, we've doubled our crimes? There's obviously an awful lot of work we do. My bigger concern this year was an increase, and I was expecting to see an increase in Brexit-related crime and Brexit-related hate offences. I haven't actually seen that much. Sorry.
Just going back to my original question, is an active role being taken then to? I understand it may be a small increase, but I'd kind of like a greater attentional focus, not even just on Islamophobia, but on the other figures that have also increased, of what's being done to tackle it and to potentially reduce it. Because I think, especially in the current 12 months, the current climate, it's a big issue across the borough and across community groups. And it's just something that it's for us to go back and to report back to them on what yourselves are doing to give them that assurance that steps are being taken to ensure that these figures don't continue, because I'm sure a lot of these hate crimes go unreported as well. At the moment, we're just seeing figures of reported hate crimes. I know myself within the borough and across London where crimes are not reported because they feel that it's insignificant, or they feel that by going to the police, they're not getting the support or the response that they're looking for. So yeah, it's more what proactive role are you taking. I appreciate that there are going to be other hate crimes that are happening as well.
Okay, for Islamophobic crime, I look at all types of hate crime, but Islamophobic crime is one part of that. Okay, so we're working with the mosques. I've got my boys and girls going into as many of the mosques as we can get into to speak to people, to talk to people. We're starting to do a lot more work with the Islamic Centre downstairs. I've got one of my new skippers who's basically said to him, I want better engagement with that. It's my over there. Sorry, getting my sense of direction right. The Islamic Centre underneath here. So I specifically said, look, we've always generally had a very good policing has had a good relationship with the Beit al-Fatur mosque, but we've sometimes not done quite so well with a lot of the other mosques. So that's the second biggest in Merton, as I understand it. And I've specifically asked a new skipper who's taken over this area and said, I want better engagement with that mosque. That will start to make an impact. If we start looking at getting into more of the mosques, liaising with people, having more conversations, starting to talk to people, we can then try and start to build that trust. So we are taking action, we are taking steps to look at Islamophobic crime, but not just Islamophobic, but racist crime, and all forms of other types of hate crime. So I don't want to just focus entirely on Islamophobia. I want to focus on all forms of crime and all forms of hate crime. That's one of the things, the first thing I did, as I said, new skipper, I said, I want better engagement there. Once we've got that better engagement, we'll then look at which other mosques we want to go to and start to continue to improve and see how we can learn and get better engagement generally with any members of the Islamic community, and then look at what other groups we can link in with and try and to get improvement. Part of that, as you say, is that we've got better confidence with people to report. I doubt it. I'd love to say we have. I think the crime has gone up. I don't know. I could look at all of these figures and go, if hate crime is being reported has gone up, that means people are more confident in us that we're going to do stuff. And if hate crime has gone down, then obviously we've reduced the crime. Well, it doesn't really work like that. How much of an impact can I have personally on changes to the amount of Islamophobic crime there is? Not as much. What I can do is try and improve our relationships with all of the mosques and all of the other religious groups, religious venues, churches, all of those, and then we can start looking at how we can improve our community confidence. So we're also working with things like the IAG, and we are looking for people to join the IAG. That's looked after by Father David What's Father David's Pennells. Father David Pennells. We're looking for more people to join the IAG, and that at least we can start looking at going, well, how else can we do? What else can we do? What other options are there, and how can we continue to improve?
Thank you very much. Just one final question to kind of follow that up. Across, you may not know this off the top of your head, but over the past 12 months, how many places have the police visited, kind of give talks or talk to people across the borough at not just mosques, but as you say, different places of worship across the borough? So as a percentage, do you know, as an example, if there was 50 places across Merton, how many places have police actually visited?
I have absolutely no idea.
Is that something that you could look into at all?
I think that would be very difficult and challenging to find out. What I can say is that if you've got a venue that you want any of my guys and girls to go to, I will guarantee they will go to that venue.
Okay, brilliant. Maybe that's something that we should encourage cross-community groups.
There has to be an element of two-way street on that. So if somebody comes to me from any group and says, I would like one of the dedicated ward officers to come to me and give me a chat, I guarantee that will happen. Okay? I will personally make sure that happens. my guys and girls who are my dedicated ward officers will go, you know what, yeah, we'll do that. How much information they can provide, whether they can give all the answers, probably not. What they can do is they will turn up and say, hi, we're here, let's have a chat. And we want that to happen, but there's also an element of, somebody says to us, can we have a meeting with you? Great, let's make it a two-way street.
I just don't know whether potentially we could, as a forum, reach out to these religious groups to let them know that that is something that can be offered. So I think there's a lot of people and places that aren't aware of that. So that, if that is something that can be done, I think that's brilliant, that should be utilised. Thank you.
My boys and girls are out, they do, and the same thing for the burglary, to go back to the previous subject. If anybody says, I want burglary, crime prevention advice, my boys and girls will go out there and they will give crime prevention advice. In exactly the same way, they will go to any community groups. There are times with schools we have to be very careful of to make sure we don't tread on the toes of the schools officers, because we've got schools officers, so we don't want to upset them. But community groups, community forums, anything like that, any mosque says, can we have a visit? I will guarantee, they will turn up. Whether they can say, if you phone them and say, yeah, we've got a meeting tomorrow, well, if they're not on and they're busy doing other stuff, and there's also, I've got to put a comment on there that says, if they agree to something and then something major happens, then I have to swift them away.
Yeah.
So a perfect example was with the bomb that happened in Kingston, because we're one big happy BCU, I kind of got strict. So a lot of my boys and girls who were on duty at that time had to go off to Kingston and just look after the huge amount of problems that were there. Now, of course, that does swing both ways. So if I have a major problem in Merton, I get to swift all of the Kingston community officers, and those in Wandsworth and those in Richmond. But of course, it does go both ways. So I will always say they will go, they will agree to that, but they have to have, it's an agreed date, so it's, we kind of, they have their own shifts and whether they can move them or whatever. But if we say, we would like you to do a visit on to our community group at some point in the next couple of weeks, can we agree a date? They will make that happen.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
My name is Edward Maliki. I'm the pastor of Power Centre Church, located in Central Richmond. Two questions, really. One related to life crime. I'd like you to just give us some more insight into what you're actually doing regarding prevention of this and what you're doing collaborating with the schools in the borough to educate young people. The second question is whether you'll be able to tell me how valuable and helpful street pastors have been in understanding and dealing with some of these issues that happen in the streets.
Okay. Knife crime. Knife crime is up across the whole of London. I'd love to say it's not. Okay? Things that I've personally done to improve that. I've chucked in some Section 60 search powers. I don't know if you know what that means. Who knows what I mean when I say Section 60? Put your hands up if you know what Section 60 is. A couple of people. Okay. Great. Basically, normally, if I want to search somebody, I have to have what's called reasonable grounds. Often that's a member of the public says, him over there, the guy in the cream jacket, he's got a knife in his pocket. Fantastic. Go along, have a chat, turn them over, check whether you've actually got a knife in your pocket. Great. Or there's other reasons why we can search people, but it depends on what they say, how we speak, when they speak to us. A variety of reasons that allows us to justify searching somebody to basically take knives off the street, which is always our aim. Where we've had the anticipation of serious violence, where I've been concerned that there might be more problems, so especially where there's been some kind of knife crime, I go, you know what, I think I'm really concerned about knife crime. And I then put my name to say, anybody in Merton, or whichever area I want to pick, so I pick 5 wards, or whichever wards I feel is most likely to have, that if I do searches in that area, I can prevent further violence. So I've said, I will chuck in a Section 60 search authority, which means any police officer can walk up to anybody who they reasonably believe might be involved in violence and search them without having additional grounds. That actually has quite a significant effect because it prevents people, and if people are concerned that they'll get caught carrying a knife, they're less likely to carry a knife. And if they don't carry knives, they don't get knives used against them. So the problem is that many people don't realise that carrying a knife is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm carrying a knife because I'm concerned about being stabbed. If you're carrying a knife, you're more likely to be stabbed. If you're not carrying a knife, you're less likely to be stabbed. This is something that schools officers do a lot of work on, as just to come back in, sort of curveball in with that answer. So the schools officers are all doing a lot of anti-knife crime discussions. We also try and link in as much as we can with the community groups, the council teams, the youth groups, social services, to have help with talks. The main thing at the schools is we have the schools officers who do controlled lessons all through the year, and they're all phased at different ages to say, this is why you shouldn't be carrying knives. This is what happens if you do carry a knife. But the main thing I can do is hope that people will fear being caught carrying a knife. So the more searches we can do, the more people will then fear they're going to get caught with a knife and say, I don't want to get caught with a knife, therefore I'm not going to carry a knife. And if they don't carry knives, they're less likely to get stabbed or stab anybody else. And those are the things that I want to do. So yes, I am very aware that the increase in stop and search that is being publicised at the moment is often divisive towards certain communities. I'm very aware of that. But I'm also aware that every time I search somebody and I find a knife in their possession, I'm saving somebody's life. And that, to me, is far more important than anything else. I want to save lives. And stop and search does save lives. So that's part of it. So we're doing a lot of extra stop and search. We are doing more. I'm pushing all of my boys and girls to say, we need to get more stop and search. I want more stop and search. The more people fear being stopped and searched, the less likely they are to carry knives. That's a good thing. I'll come back to you. So that's part of it. We've got a number of talks going on through the schools. We're working, as I say, with social services. We're doing a lot of other proactive work. We've got working with the community count, the wardens from the housing associations to say what they can do if they're finding knives. So we're not just looking for knives in people's possessions. We're looking for knives that people leave. So what often happens on certain estates is because people have realised that the police are likely to turn them over, what they'll do is they'll hide their knives. So we often go searching for those knives. And we're helping the community wardens and the community housing association staff. And we've also done talks for the bin refuse collectors. Am I allowed to say bin boys and girls? Refuse collectors. What they can do. So when they're searching, are they finding knives? What can we do to prevent that? Because every knife we find, again, are we then saving somebody's life? So we're doing loads and loads of work. I'm quite pleased with the amount of work we're doing, but it's never enough because I always want to prevent each and every single knife crime that happens. The most recent knife crime, 2 people were involved, 2 people have been charged with offences. Okay? So we've done a lot of work on the last quite concerning knife crime that happened. 2 guys, both had knives. Both have been charged with offences, and I want them both to go to prison for that because they're both carrying knives and both willing to use knives. Okay? And the street pastors, I will come back to you, I haven't got you. The street pastors, I think they do a great job. I don't have that much personal contact with them. I do know, especially when we get a phone call that says they are out, it just provides an extra level of support, assistance, and another pair of eyes out on the street. So I'm always happy to have that. Okay?
Can I quickly mention about the we had an event on the 18th of May at the Baptist Church on Saturday, and we were very successful. We had 160 people turned up, and the feedback was good. And we had a guy who was involved in gun issues, and he told us how it affected his mom, and what happened, how it changed, and he's a completely different person. It went down very well. I think it was people who were there at the event. It was a very successful event. On the feedback we've had.
One of your colleagues took part in a Merton Youth Parliament event where young people did a report on fear of crime, and knife crime was one of the things that they talked about mostly. These young people were saying that they didn't trust the relationship between themselves and the police. And these young people said that they understood the need for stop and search. But to increase the trust between young people and the police, more work needs to be done. And your colleague did mention a very good idea, which I have not heard anything back from since. I have emailed him a couple of times, I'm happy to share that with you later. where he suggested having young people, particularly young people from the youth department, to get involved with observing the training sessions of police when they're doing stop and search, so that the young people themselves can see how it's done and even give some feedback and talk about how, you know, how that would make them feel, would there be any ways to improve it. Because I think then if there's that communication and that level of trust built, things may improve. I don't think a young person necessarily is going to stop carrying knives because of the fear of stop and search. The young people are carrying knives for all sorts of complicated reasons, and I think you're very well aware of that. Stop and search is not going to end that level of rise of knife crime in the way that you perceive it to be, I think. If we are to really tackle knife crime within young people today, there's a real fear, and that's why young people are carrying knives. They fear for their lives, which is why they're carrying these knives. So what's going to happen to help build that trust, and are you going to encourage the stop and search being observed by these young people?
I'm happy with that. That's a perfectly sensible concept. Unfortunately, we don't get much training on the stop and search as much as I wish we did. I know I've got some training, we're doing a lot of training with cadets to help out and to do some work with them. Who's the officer who you were speaking to? Okay. I think that's certainly a sensible concept. I have no issues with that. What I can say also, if people are unhappy on a completely different subject, while I'm thinking of it, I have a stop and search monitoring panel. If you would like to join the stop and search monitoring panel, please let me know. Josh Talbot is the stop and search monitoring chairperson. So if somebody says, I want to go and watch, what do? You can actually watch the body worn video of people doing stop and searches. We go through every count where we say, look, this person has been searched, these were the grounds, this was the reason why this person got searched. And then we can often watch the videos for that. So if you want to get more involved in that and join the stop and search monitoring panel, please do get in touch with me. Is that my time out? You are, we can say goodbye. Right, sorry, are you happy with that answer? So,
I'll talk to you later about it because I can't remember.
Okay.
Well, the question I was going to ask is almost identical, similar to what the councillor just mentioned. That we all support the stop and search. For me, I'm supporting 100%. If possible, to stop everybody could find. But the issue is how you do it. That's the question that worries us. Because if it happens to be that one race or particular group is being targeted all the time, then we know it's not even and we know there is no fairness in it. So that's the way that worries us. Not that is it to stop people, is how it's being done.
Yep.
That's one. Then the other thing I want to talk about is, you mentioned earlier on that you say people are not reporting crime, which is quite true because I'm also guilty of that. The last time I was asked, when did you report a crime? That's true. But I believe the reason why people are not reporting crime, it could be down to, say, the satisfaction, the confidence they have in the police. Because if they know they're not going to get any satisfaction from the police, they make a report, it will take 2-3 days before they turn up. They simply say, what's the point of me making a report? So the best thing, just forget it. That's why I see you're not able to get the figures to prosecute people and to be able to count on the statistics, which we can see that a good work is being done.
Okay. First of all, the main reason we don't provide as good a service as we used to, money. I'd love to say it's something different. Basically, you look at what cuts the police have had over the last 5-10 years. We have been shredded. Okay? That's really what it comes down to. Across the whole of the MPS, across the whole of the country, the number of police officers has gone through the floor. I'd love to say that we can do more with less, as some of our politicians keep telling us. You can do more with less, you can be more efficient. No, you can't. Not when you take £600 million worth of cuts. £600 million is the cut to our budget each year that we've suffered in the last 5 years. Okay? That number of people, that's a huge number of police officers, that is a huge amount of extra work that we could have done. Okay? Basically, the more people talk about crime, the more politicians raise crime and the concerns about crime, the more chance we have of getting a bit more funding, which means we can do more. You can't do more with less. I don't care what anybody says, I don't care. You can't do more with less. We are absolutely cut to the bone. We are shredded. We have done everything we possibly can in efficiency savings. Within reason, there's always a few. We're a big organisation. But we do everything we possibly can to save money. We are always trying to save money so that we can provide the best possible service to as many people as possible. However, I am very aware that reporting crime to the police is frequently not that great. And I'd love to say I can do more. And I'd love to say we can be better. I personally, I don't live on this borough, I do live in the BCU, I live in London, and I've tried to report crime, and I know the systems, and I've failed. And I've been there, I've had crimes happen to me, and I've gone, you know what, I can report this. And I've gone round in circles, and I understand the system, so I really do sympathise with people who are trying to phone us up and trying to report crime. We've increased the ways we can report crime, so we can now do it online, we can now do phone 101. You can turn up at a police station. Wimbledon Police Station is still a 24/7 police station. As a front office, you can go in there any time of day and you can report any crime there. And if you've got language difficulties, we've got language line on there, so you can pick up a phone and we have a conversation with the phone in front of you, and we're talking through an interpreter who's there on the end of the phone. Maybe in a different country. I've had one person who was in Afghanistan as my interpreter on a conversation I was having with somebody who was this far away. It's like, and then we asked them afterwards, where are you from? He said, I am in Kabul. It's like, anyway, this is how it works. So people can report crime, but it is difficult. And I'd love to say I've got more police officers on the street who can take those reports, investigate crime, and do more to do that. We don't have enough police officers to do as much as we wish we could do. If I doubled the number of police officers, would I still want more? Yes, of course I would. As police, we cannot ever have enough police officers because everybody wants a police officer to protect them from every single kind of crime. We can't do that. That's never going to happen. What we can do is, the more police officers we have, the more budget we have, the more we can do. But 600 million quid's worth of cuts has an impact. And I'd love to say it doesn't. That's really what it comes down to. Okay. However, while I'm on the subject, I've got a couple of things I do need to tick off. How long have I got, by the way? Much longer.
No.
Okay, right. I will come back to you. A couple of things I just want to mention. I was hoping they would come out in the conversations. I just mentioned Wimbledon Police Station. It's 24/7. It is still front office at Wimbledon Police Station. Is still a 24/7 front office. How long that will last for, I don't know. That's not in my pay grade. The decision about Wimbledon Police Station is currently with the Mayor's office. The Mayor's office may decide to either keep Wimbledon or get rid of Wimbledon. It's way above my pay grade. That's a political decision. Okay. However, in the short term, there is currently discussions underway, and they are discussions, not necessarily anything concrete, about amalgamating our response capacity, so moving some of the Wandsworth officers into Wimbledon in the short term. That is separate to the decision about Wimbledon Police Station. So if you hear, oh, they're moving all the police officers out of Earlsfield and moving them into Wimbledon, that is a completely separate decision and hasn't been decided yet. It's being discussed as to whether that's feasible. We amalgamated Kingston and Twickenham's response capacity, so we had one happy team at Twickenham, and we're considering and looking at amalgamating Earlsfield, i.e. Wandsworth Police Station, Wandsworth response team into Wimbledon. Because it's close to both parks, it's kind of on the book. Wimbledon Police Station is only a couple of minutes away from what is effectively Wandsworth Borough, so we can get to all the calls, and hopefully it will help to make us more efficient. Okay? But they are completely separate decisions, so if you hear one or the other, they are not necessarily the same thing. So it may be that we move everybody into Wimbledon, and then we get a decision next week that says Wimbledon's closing, at which point we'll have to work out what we're doing at that point. That is buildings issues. I can't answer that. All I can say is, when we know, we'll tell lots of people. I'm hoping that one of your fine colleagues will actually get told before, and he will then come and tell me. I'm hoping. But of course, if he finds out or I find out, but at some point, Wimbledon Police Station, we will get a decision about what happens with that. We might sell part of Wimbledon Police Station, We might sell all of Wimbledon Police Station, we might not sell Wimbledon Police Station. What I can say is it's above our level decision. So that is with the Mayor's office. Okay, next question. Next thing is on staffing. You said you're West Barnes, you are therefore my only ward that as of in about 2 months' time, I will not have full staff. Okay? Every other ward I plan on having, at the moment, I've kind of been moving people all around and trying to get people back. I've had a couple of people on a safeguarding attachment for the last 6 months. They're coming back in September, which means that I now have, or one of them's coming back, one of them's staying with safeguarding, which means I have one vacancy projected at this stage out of all my 68 staff, which means I'm doing quite well, because there's always an element of churn amongst my staff. You're kind of only half, because you've got 1.5 rather than 2. But I'm hoping to get that place filled. But every other ward should have 2 PCs and a PCSO, in theory, on every single ward. Some wards do have a couple of officers who are, I've got one ward that has an officer who's on maternity leave, I've got one PC who's on long-term sick, and I'm hoping to have him back fairly soon, and I've got a couple of PCSOs who are restricted at the moment for various different reasons, different injuries, etc. So generally, my staffing is actually in quite a good position right now. Out of 68 staff, I think I've got a projected 67, and I'm working on West Barnes, that's on my hit list. But I have to say, I have to prioritise all of my wards, and I will always look at the strengths and skills of anybody who comes in, and I will then make decisions based on where I feel my PCs can do the most good. So if I feel there are more wards that have a higher crime area or higher problem area, and I want to put those PCs into that, if they leave, then I might backfill to them. So I wouldn't necessarily be backfilling to West Barnes first, because you're only half a PC down between you and Lower Morden, but I am working on that. But every other ward is in a very good position, and I have got 2 PCs and a PCSO on every single ward. Okay? And finally, I just want to touch quickly on the car crash that happened last week. I'm sure you've seen that in the news. Our thoughts are obviously with the family of the gentleman who did die. I want to sort of have a quick discussion about IOPC. They have got this investigation. Do you all know what I mean by who the IOPC are? Hands up if you know who the IOPC are. They investigate the police. Right, they're the police's police. Pro custodia, ipso custodia. Almost Latin, who guards the guards. Basically, they have got this investigation. So, police officers, it happened, and we sent our roads policing team who turned up and did an investigation. They've spoken to 3 of the witnesses who were there at the time. The person who was reported in the newspapers was not there at the time. So the witness who is in the Mitcham Guardian was not there at the time. Sorry? It was in the Wimbledon News. But the person who had reported that the blue lights and 2 tones were not on reckoned that every single police car that goes past, he notices whether they've got blue lights and 2 tones on. And he said, I didn't see it, but I think they must have had their blue lights on because I would have heard it. Okay. I think I can leave that there. Okay? So, IOPC have the investigation. What that really means is I have to be very, very careful what I say. Okay? I cannot say anything to anybody about what happened because it is an IOPC investigation. And I want people to understand this because, okay, in this case, it's less emotive, but every now and again, something happens where there is IOPC involvement and the community is up in arms about it. And the frequent criticism is, well, the police aren't telling us anything. The police aren't allowed to tell anything because we don't own the crime. We don't own the investigation. And if I say something about what's happened and what I know of the investigation, I get myself into an awful lot of trouble because I am breaching IOPC confidentiality. The IOPC should assign somebody as a family liaison officer. I can't guarantee how good that person will be. I can't guarantee how much contact they will have with the family. I am not allowed, as the police, to assign my own family liaison officer. We're not allowed. So we can't do anything We can't talk about anything. I cannot challenge the things that are in the newspapers that I know are wrong. I'm not allowed to. Only the IOPC can say something. So we say to the IOPC, look, that's one bit of information in the newspapers. Can you correct that for us? And they go, I'll think about it. I haven't seen anything in the newspapers with a correction about the comments about blue lights and two tones. Okay? And I cannot go to the press myself and say, really? I'm not allowed to. So while in this case, yes, okay, it's a terrible thing that's happened, there is less community effectiveness so far. When there's been a major incident, and we as the police are saying to you, we can't say anything, we don't know anything, we're not allowed to say anything, this is the time when people say, but you should tell us what happened. I can't say what happened. IOPC have the investigation. And many people don't see the difference between the police and the IOPC, and they kind of think it's all, well, you're all the filthy wazzers. We're not, and we cannot control the IOPC. Okay? So, just want to kind of explain that. We, as the police, hate the IOPC in the way that most of our residents hate the police. Okay? I will come back to you. No, I've done my list. Right. Can I go to the gentleman first, because he was first in the queue? Yeah. And then Edith is about to shout me down, so I'm going to have to say, is the young lady last? You're going to be last? Am I going to about to be kicked out?
Yeah, it's a quick one, actually. Now, would you say that a lot of the crime is committed, you know, things like knife crime, which has actually got an element of drugs, that sort of thing. Would you say it's also got an outside element that, you know, that a lot of these things perhaps are driven from outside, might even be outside the United Kingdom, and hence the police have got a job in, you know, maybe trying to keep a lid on things rather than getting into the source of it and deal with it.
Knife crime or other types of crime? Two completely different answers. Take your pick.
Knife crime?
Knife crime, local. Everybody carrying knives, all the problem people who are carrying knives, habitual knife carriers, they are Merton residents. That's a simple answer. They are local, they are not people coming into the area from outside areas. There's a few, don't get me wrong, but the vast majority of people who are carrying knives and who are caught carrying in possession of knives, or that we know are regularly carrying knives, are locals, relatively, in the near area. Other types of crime? Maybe. There's been other types of crime, certain criminals from certain areas. We've had some burglary issues. Some of the burglars we caught haven't been particularly local. Perfect example, Coppy that we caught, he's from, okay, he used to live in the Merton area. He's living up in Manchester and has been for the last 10 years. So we do have an element of people coming in for different kinds of crime, coming into the area, but the vast majority of knife crime is local.
Yeah, but might be local.
It might be local ones, be just stool pigeons in a sense. Not because they go to the local area, you know, if they're young, they can go up to school gates and might not change. But they may not even have any brands to organise anything.
What it really comes down to is we don't see a significant number of people who come into the borough in order to use for knife crime purposes. Yes, there's always a few. The moped thefts, we've had some that were such a terrible blight for a number of people about 6 months to a year ago, before we started knocking people off their bikes, were frequently coming in from other areas into Merton, but the vast majority of knife crime is actually from locals. Okay, how now?
Hi, my name is Sandra Copeland and I'm from Greenwood Church Ministries. One of the questions, I mean, I've worked with young people in criminal justice systems for about 30 years. And one of the things I wanted to ask is what strategy is being used to develop the support that is given after there has been, particularly like a knife crime with a young person, what support is being given to the families and those associated, which tend to be everybody in the community that knows of or knows the victim. The reason being is many of the families that I've spoken to, one of the things that they have complained bitterly about is that the police interest is just to get as much information, but there isn't so much interest in trying to work with community figures who can help them access these young people who are now upset, angry and want revenge, to be able to reduce the increase of knife crime or carrying of knives, which often escalates because of fear.
Okay.
And because often the young person is known to those individuals. So that's one thing I wanted to ask, because I do feel that there is something that can be improved there. And the other thing is about the deployment of police services when there is a call. Recently I saw an incident. It was a girl, well, a young man was assaulting his girlfriend, and the response was 4 cars. And there was about 12 police officers there for about 40 minutes. And I was just like, looking at it and thinking, is this a good use and deployment of services that are, I know personally, are very overstretched. So I wanted to know if that's something that's been monitored and managed by the police department, because I've seen it happen a number of times.
Okay. I'll come back to the first question is excess police officers at a crime scene in an incident, massively looked at. And when I was on team, because I was a response team supervisor, if I've got 4 cars at an incident, I'm on the radio to them saying, how many cars do I need there? I want those cars out there. I want cars to go and take that next call, because they're always backing up calls. Okay? So we as supervisors are constantly on the PC's case to say, get out of there. Can you possibly do with only 2 or 3 cars or 1 car? So we are constantly trying to chase to make sure, and the PCs know that, and they will try and use the minimum number of officers, and then they get diverted off to the next call. So as soon as they've got enough police officers on scene, they will divert off to another call. However, it depends also on how many people were there at the time, what kind of vehicle it was. So if I'm out with my violent crime bus, we have a violent crime task force, and it goes around like the gang mentality. We go around in a gang of 6. If you've got one van which has 6 officers in it, it doesn't just drop 2 people off, the van will stay together. So it looks like you've got a lot of police officers dealing with 1 or 2 people. So that's part of that, so how many vehicles there were. There's also an element of how many people are needed to set up a crime scene, what's the nature of the injuries. You always need at least 2 people, if not 3 or 4, to take down one person who's going to be nasty. Okay? The more police officers we can have grabbing hold of somebody, the less chance anybody has of being injured. It doesn't look like that, so it always looks really aggressive. So I stand here, and I've got 4 mates standing next to me, and if I jump on you, and I've got 4 of mine against 1 of you, we all just grab hold of a bit. We grab hold of an arm, we grab hold of a leg. If I go and take you on one-on-one, it's, come in, Mark's of 23 rules, one-on-one, we're both going to get injured. So often, when we know we're going to be arresting somebody, we'll call for a couple of extra units just to help us out. And it actually makes it safer. Although it looks a lot more aggressive, and it looks a lot more, oh, you're there, why have you got so many of you for only 1 of them? Well, the more of us there are, the safer it actually is for everybody involved, and the less injuries are caused when we've got plenty of us there. I know it sounds screwed up, but that's basically the way the system is, because of the way we grab hold of people. If you've only got 1 person, you're struggling, you're rolling around. If you've got 4 of you, you just grab hold of a bit and stick them on the deck and then get them in cups. So we are constantly trying to reduce the numbers. So you've got crime scenes, how many people are in the crime scene? Has a knife been used? Has a weapon been used? Have we got to search an area for the weapon? If we've got 2 people having an argument, as you said, bloke hitting his partner, you're going to need 2 or 3 officers to deal with the bloke, probably. You're going to need 1 or 2 officers to deal with the lady, or the victim. So you've got a victim who needs statements taken, photographs if necessary, where can we take them to put them into a safe place. If you've got a crime scene, how many entrances and exits are there to the crime scene? How much of an area have we got to search? Have we got CCTV we need to go and grab hold of? Have I got any witness statements from anybody else who might have witnessed it? All of these kind of things all take police officers, all of which takes time. And all I can say is that I, as a supervisor, am on the radio going, do you really need 4 cars there? Get away from there and take the next call. Because I've always got calls back. Okay, and the second question was...
In regards to the support given to...
Right, yes. We work very carefully with and closely collaboratively with the council on the borough's knife crime strategy. And part of that strategy is helping social services to provide that support to the community and support people to prevent offences from happening, to get into the families, through social services, through youth services, through the gangs units, through all manner of different bits and pieces. Fundamentally, they do the bulk of that. We generally do more of the enforcement side of things. So it does look like we're not doing as much, but we work very carefully with social services. We're constantly having conversations with them, discussing how we can move forward. What more can we do to prevent crime? One of the other things we do is a lot of time families say, my son isn't involved in a gang. And we go, no, of course he's not. Butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. No. And we try and say that to the family. So we will often go and knock on the doors of habitual knife carriers, and we're saying to them, we know who you are. I know you are a nasty person who's carrying knives. You're not carrying one right now because you're inside your own home, but I know you carry knives. I'm going to be out looking for you, and I want to try and search you and find you with a knife. But we're also saying to the mums, little Johnny, he's not quite as innocent as you think he is. But as somebody else said to me recently, who's been speaking to people involved in crime for a long, long time, and her comment was, she's dealt with an awful lot of people, but no mother has ever said to her, my son is in a gang. Okay? Because no mother ever believes their son is in a gang. So there's an element of, we do try and do stuff, we do try and work with council, we do try and work with social services, and we do try and speak to people as well, and families, and say, look, he is carrying knives. He is going to get himself in trouble. He is either going to get himself stabbed, or he's likely to stab somebody else, in which case they'll be winding up in prison. That is something that is a fact. Because most people who carry knives, they stop carrying knives because either they get stabbed or because they stab somebody. So we do a lot of work with the council and with social services to try and reduce the impact on the families, on the community, aside from what the police do effectively, which is the enforcement side of things. Okay, I'm about to get told to shut up now, aren't I?
Thank you very much for all the information you have provided. And if anybody has any other questions, that will okay. Right, the next item is the BAME voice. Can I ask Hannah to do the presentation?
Chair, Mr. Ed Malik is going to start.
Okay, Mr. Malik.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Edward Awoliki. I'm senior pastor of Consultative Church, located in the centre of Richmond, and I'm a member of the one group that do the presentation today. I'm chairman, and I'm starting to look at who we are. I think the key bit of information is that we were formed or had an inaugural meeting on the 4th of February 2016. And we are an independent body. Our principal aim is to actually empower our community, to get our community that we represent, Black, Asian, minority, ethnic communities, empowered. And we became a registered charity on the 10th of July 2017. I'll say the key point, as I understand it, is that we want to be part of the solution rather than just being a complainant. So that's part of capacity building. So we analyze the issues, the problems, be it mental health issues, other health issues, social issues. But we don't just come and say these are the problems. No, we also want to make a contribution so that we can find a solution in partnership rather than us just diagnosing the problems. What we do, well, I think I've said that already, we're an ongoing capacity building group. side if there's information we need to have so that we can have it better all clarified in our own understanding. We invite someone who's an expert in it who will come and share with us. Sometimes, or many times, with the council actually coming to sharing, updating us on policy initiatives, so that we can also input to contribute to the progress. Getting to know our community, or enabling our community to get to know one another, we have done a number of things to help with that. We did an event called Getting to Know You, also Black History Month. We're quite active in that because we want to ensure that indeed our community understands that we have a historical base for this borough. We started somewhere, and where we are now, where we want to go. Summer Fair was done as well, and all of it was driven by a desire to get the community to know that we exist, that we can be a channel through which they can actually feed information that we can look at, study it, and feedback to the council. And we really appreciate, I think at this point, Merton Council and the active interest shown by the council in supporting the work we're doing.
I think it's been estimated that by 2021, almost 49% of Merton residents will come from a BAME background. And this raises very strong emotions, and also it means additional needs will have to be looked at on all sides. And with this kind of a changing pattern and all its cultural and religious and social implications, we think imperative that the BAME organizations continue to work for those who settle here. There are many people who feel that we should become more integrated into that wider picture. But there are more people who are coming in, and we feel that these people need to be understood, need to be listened to, and helped in any way possible. And we see ourselves as a bridge in the gap which exists between the statutory sector and the BAME communities. The statutory sector and agencies come to us from time to time to say, how can we reach that phrase we used before, the hard to reach? They're always saying that. And what we've tried to do within the last 2 years is to be that bridge between the statutory sector and the communities, because they can't reach the communities for some reason. As we said, they're using the wrong tools, but we can, at grassroots level, we can reach those communities, and we can also act as that medium of bringing both communities together, both the statutory sector and the communities, and it's getting much better now, so that the statutory sector, I think, feel a little bit more comfortable in approaching our organisations and our communities.
The other aspect as well of our work is to do with, I'm sure you're all aware, in terms of demographic evidence and epidemiological evidence, that there are particular conditions that affect ethnic minorities more than affect the wider community. My field is mental health. Prior to becoming a pastor, I was senior lecturer in mental health at St. George's for over 2 decades. And my specialist area was actually ethnic minority in psychiatry. And so we looked at that as we engaged as a group with the Recovery College at Springfield Hospital to try to see how we could actually encourage our people who are experiencing mental health problems to access the college so they can actually enable themselves to promote their own recovery and work towards their recovery. Other issues, for example, medical conditions that our people suffer mostly from is hypertension, that's one area, and so on and so forth. Diabetes, and what we have done actually as the Woodwell missions that the church I represent, we've actually conducted seminars on health issues in the church and publicized it within Mitchell and Merton to encourage people to come in. We've had experts come in. We had a diabetes champion, a GP in North London, actually come over and do a presentation. And people really welcomed that very much. I did a session on dementia and another session on depression, and so on and so forth. We had a group coming in from St. Helier Hospital who came and did a session on stroke, on CVA. So we understand that there are particular health concerns affecting our community, and what we're trying to do is make our bit of contribution to educate, to inform, and to galvanize the support within the community so that we can actually prevent some of these conditions.
And one of the things we've been able to do with the funding, initial funding we got from the council, is that we've been able to help, for example, the CCG. At one point we thought we worked for the CCG because there's so many demands that have been made on us that at times we really literally thought that we were working for the CCG and some of the agencies. But at practically every meeting we've had somebody from the statutory sector come and work with us. And things have improved. We've had improved health outcomes and greater cooperation with the statutory sector. But obviously more needs to be done. There's an African proverb which says that until the lions tell their stories, tales of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. So another aspect of what we're trying to do is to make sure that the stories, the stories of BAME people are recorded and told. In the next few weeks, the Windrush celebration is coming up, and I would please encourage everybody here to be a part of that. And what we're trying to do is to record the stories of people who came, that great migration, I think the greatest migration in British history, of people who came to help. And we want to celebrate what people have done and to tell their stories. Because anybody else telling somebody else's story is merely an interpretation, it's not the real story. So we're trying very hard to make sure that the Heritage Centre has a record of what amazing work that the BAME people have done in Merton. And going on from that, I think it's also many of the difficulties which the BAME people face, is particularly the young people, and we've got, I think, a couple of young people here tonight, is that it's a confusion about identity, about ethnicity, about nationality. And quite a lot of kids who are born here will say to you, well, I'm English. And there's that utter confusion about who am I, what am I, where do I belong? So in addition to this whole thing about recording stories, it's also about reaffirming who BAME people are and how we fit into this wider Merton community.
The next bit that is to do with actually understanding the challenges BAME groups have in accessing resources and accessing services. And we see ourselves as a resource to educate, inform, and to promote greater access to what services are able to offer. It's also important in terms of assimilation that we see different people groups, not as a hindrance to society progressing, but as simply as adding quality to our human community. So that we don't see it as a problem, we see it as an opportunity. How we as human beings can actually learn to respect each other and live in peace. So that's like an ideal goal, but necessarily it's a goal we're pursuing. That the cohesion, the friendship, and the respect for each other, that's so important in terms of the quality of life our communities can enjoy.
Now we've told you what we do, what we've done, what we've tried to achieve, but what we want to talk about now is what more needs to be done. And I'd like to at this point pay a tribute to the organizations that are part of the BAME Voice. BAME Voice isn't something that's new. We've been trying to set it up for over 20 years, and it's never ever worked. This is the first time, I think, that we've had groups, about 10 groups coming together, and that it's lasted as long as it has. It's lasted for 3 years. We've met every single month since it was launched. And I think that in itself is a tribute to the organisations, but also a tribute to the council. Councillor Edith McCauley, who is here with us, has been with this organisation all the way. Mr. John Dimmer, who's sitting up there, has been with this organisation throughout, and there are councillors here who have supported us, and we're very grateful for that support. There's a lot more that needs to be done, and one of those is campaigning for recognition of the value of smaller organisations to the development of Merton itself. Sadly, what is happening at the moment is that monies are being given to the larger organisations, who then come to the smaller organisations and say, can you help us with this work? So that we are struggling. I cannot tell you how we are struggling, working from homes because we cannot afford premises, we can't afford any of the things that the larger organisations can do, but yet still we are the ones that are providing the information that now go into that big pot. But in writing those strategies, very rarely are we referred to in those documentation. This is one thing we're fighting to see, that we are given the recognition that we deserve because we are putting in the work.
Finally, 3 keywords. Word number 1 is funding. Sometimes called accumulating, sometimes called money. So we need that if we're to get anywhere. And we need to have a solid base funding system that is reliable, that identifies with the things that we're trying to achieve, and is willing to support us. Otherwise, it won't work. And the second word is spreading awareness. Making the heritage of various BAME communities in Merton and their contribution to its history, development, and the hopes for the future publicized and well known for the sector place. And finally, breaking down cultural, religious, and social barriers to encourage them to find some way in which those barriers can be broken and those as a community can be more cohesive. We're working together as a community of people. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for the very interesting presentation. Does anybody have any questions or any input they want to put in place? Any questions?
It's not really a question. I just want to commend all your hard work, and I'm really quite inspired by what you've managed to do with such a limited amount of resources and funding. But I can't really answer any of the funding issues, but if I'm sure Merton Council do their best to support you as much as they can, and I think they do. So far you've been doing pretty much that, I'd say so. But yeah, you've been, I was really impressed, so thank you very much for your report.
I'm sure it would be ridiculous for me to ask questions when I'm part of it. All I wanted to do is just reinforce what Anna and Abdul Malik have just said. We want people to recognize us, to actually believe and see that we are not a problem, but we want to be part of the solutions as we've been doing. Why do I mention the solution? Is that to echo the point that as we are at the moment, we've been serving in different communities. We've got representatives at the Safe and Neighborhood Board, which is about that and regulates the police here to check them. In fact, I've been meeting with the police that was here all the time. We do have representative also at the JCC. We have represented the interfaith community, and we also have representative at the compact, which means we're really doing something well and we are there as a solution. We are not just coming to say we just want money to survive, but we actually want the council to value of what we're doing. Because all these organizations I've mentioned will be making enormous contribution to them, especially the police. Because I sit at the Safer Neighborhood Board, and of which when issues like discrimination, that Brexit things, or that's anything that comes up that involves BAME, we are there to guide them. And also, if it is to do with Muslims, we are there to show them how to tread carefully and how to approach them. So we want all this that we'll be doing for the council to recognize that and help us to promote and progress further in terms of funding. Because as my colleagues have said, without the funding, we're not able to go further. There are other issues, there are other things that we really want to do, but without the money, we cannot do it. Hannah just mentioned premises. At least we need somewhere that we could conglomerate, have a meeting and whatever, rather than keep asking fire force, asking the council, as we haven't got any base whatsoever. So I believe if they are able to look at what we're doing in terms of the value we add into the community, they should consider our long-term survival in terms of give us some kind of grant, not just one-year grant, but if we could have something like that 3-year funding could help us plan. Because with this one year, we don't know where we're going to be next. The last time the amount we had, now it's being cut down, and cutting down that amount means no activities to do. So this is what I just want the council to recognize, that, as Malik has said, we are part of solving problems. We are part of the solutions. So for them to understand that, that's why I'm just adding this into it. Thank you.
Are we asking the council for, do you have any comments to make in terms of what we have?
Yeah, I just asked are we asking for the council to support us financially, or are we asking the council to actually acknowledge that the work being done is more, there's a lot more work being done. The various groups, the finances have been given to, because the BAME groups are doing all the work that it's supposed to be done by various organisations. So are we asking for them to recognise that we're doing the work, apart from funding?
Yes, I think it's getting better and better. I think the council is recognising, has recognised, because in the last wave of funding that was given, we had a little bit of money that was given to us. It wasn't what we asked for, but some money was given for capacity building. But our point is that a lot of the organisations, what they actually need is money to carry out projects that are going to help bridge that gap between the east and the west of the borough. And we need enough money to do that, but I always say it's not always about money, it's about commitment as well. And it's not only commitment from the council, but commitment from ourselves as BAME organisations. I mean, BAME organisations and residents and communities should be here tonight. Let's be very honest. Why aren't there more BAME communities here tonight? So we have to look introspectively as well. We do need the money from the council. The council is beginning to recognise the value of smaller organisations, and we're very grateful for this. And this is because the lead on that is recognising that, and the officers in the council are beginning to recognise that. And we do feel that we are being appreciated, but as I say, a lot more has to be done, and needs to be done.
What is said there? I mean, I do appreciate you saying that BAME groups should be here, but you must realise a lot of them are fed up with coming here to listen to the same old story. have been used as as examples, or when they want ticking boxes exercise, they come to the BAME group, this group, to come and ask questions, fill in their box and go. Until that sort of changes and we see there's proper changes and we're being acknowledged and we're being sort of valued, you're not going to get a lot of people here. Because I asked a lot of people to come here and they just say, oh, no, okay, it's the same old, same old. Even though some of us come all the time to try and improve stuff, but they do not want to be used as ticking boxes. So until we get that across, that we're more than ticking boxes, that we should be recognised a lot more. We're all working hard, we all come here to listen, to try and push our values and views across, and it should be well acknowledged to be supported. That's why I was asking whether we were actually asking for support or to be recognised. Because a lot of people, they will come and they think that they are going to be recognised for what they're doing.
Can I just say, you're absolutely right. We've made this point that we don't just want to be here because of ticking boxes, but I think when there is an improvement and when things improve, I think we should say this. And this is why most people who know that I'm very much an outspoken person about what needs to be done, but I recognise that when things are improving, that we need to say that things are improving. And things have improved with the regime that is in place now. So that we're trying to say to our communities, well, okay, so we're tired, we're all exhausted. You know, we're always coming and hearing the same thing, but things are improving, and let's give people a chance to see whether things will get better. And I have every confidence that things will get better because they are committed. BAME Voice are committed to making sure that this works. It's in all our interests that this works. We can't keep on failing all the time. So, you know, we recognize that people are tired, but we have to keep on trying. We can't give up.
I think you're right, Hannah, because over the last 3 years since the organization was formed, there has been an improvement in terms of how the organization has been doing. I think you've had about 10 or 11 different organizations which has joined the BAME Voice, and I think this is a good thing. So one of the things we have to look at our next meeting, probably discussing further issues with John, to see how best we can sort of assist us more than what we are doing now. And we know that the organization is doing a very good job in terms of reaching people, as you said. They had to reach people, within the gap between the East and the West. And this has been done for all the 3 years that the organization has been in existence. And I am pleased with the progress that has been made. And I hope that the BAME Voice will continue to serve most of our communities, especially in the eastern side of the Borough. I don't know if John has any comments to make.
Just a quick one, I suppose. The BAME Voice's track record is there now, so the council did provide some initial funding, but that track record is plain to see. That the council has recognised that through the strategic partner programme, and will be funding BAME Voice over the next 3 years. And it's not at the level that Hannah would like, and that's something that we would need to look at in a longer term. But at least that commitment is there to the council on core funding. It is a frustration to me that actually, now that BAME Voice is there, lots of organisations use BAME Voice to get into the BAME community. So the police do, the CCG, but when I've spoken to them about actually will you pay for the service that you need, they haven't been willing to pay anything like that. In some instances they have, but not always. And that remains a frustration, I think. And we'll have to continue pushing it then to actually recognise the value, the financial value that does give to those organisations. I would like to say on the big and small issue, that is definitely correct, that the smaller groups within Merton who probably deliver on the ground do not get their fair share of the funding available. That is definitely correct. The solution to that, though, is very complicated. It's not as simple as just giving money to small groups. It's about getting the bigger groups to work with the smaller groups and to recognise the value of the smaller groups. And that is complicated. It's not an easy solution. It's something that we definitely recognise. I met with MBSC on Monday to discuss this very thing, and to work with MBSC and the larger smaller groups to do something about that. And it is something that I'm determined to do something about. I don't think it's an easy fix, number one. It will take longer, but the next strategic partner programme, we will definitely try and get that right for that.
Right. Thank you. Any other? Oh, sorry.
Yes, thank you for that. My concern is that the BAME youngsters doesn't seem to be turning up at any of these meetings. Is it publicised enough for them, or isn't it not? Because it's their future. This is more for them than us. We're getting on, and they're the ones who should be coming, carrying on the banner, and learning as to what it's supposed to be all about. BAME is what it's about. Thank you.
Right. Any other business? Just to update councillors who weren't here, we've had two important discussions before you arrived, and one of them is to do with the community plan 2019 to 2025. We've asked Darren Tulley is going to do a councillors briefing so that you know exactly what is happening, the questions which have been asked in your ward, and what is happening. It's not going to be like what Andrew did, where we had a booklet. It's going to be online, it's going to be in the computer book, and it's going to be updated from time to time, but he'll give you all the feedback. All councillors will be given a feedback as to how the community plan 2019-25 is shaping up. And we had a very good discussion on night time, and it's been an interesting evening tonight, and I hope everybody enjoyed it, and it's been very informative. And then I find out the information voice has been really good. And as Hannah said, I hope to see most of you at the University Generation celebration. Thank you so much for attending, and have a safe journey home.